Welcome back again. Still Breakfast Extra here. Our first conversation inside the second hour. Now, Nigeria has earned an unusual ranking. We now sit as the second highest country in the world for paternity fraud, only behind Jamaica. Now, that means for every DNA test conducted, an alarming number of men are finding out that children they've been raising may not actually be theirs. But what's driving this? Is it a matter of infidelity, women choosing to be unfaithful, or is there a deeper cultural truth here? In a society where a woman's value is too often tied to her ability to bear children, many buckle under pressure. Broadcaster and lecturer Funke-Treasure Anikeade once noted, many men are the issue, but will egotistically refuse to check or admit, even when they know they are the problem. So could it be that women, unable to confront infertility issues openly, feel compelled into desperate choices? Well, so paternity fraud isn't just about deception. It may also be about survival under cultural and marital expectations. The question is whether we should simply label it as infidelity or whether we must confront the pressures and egos that creates the environment in which it thrives. So joining us today to have this conversation, we have Elizabeth Digia, Operations Manager at Smart DNA. Also joining us in studio here, we have Faruq Abbas, Managing Partner, Abdul Salam Abbas & Co. We are also joined by Mohammed Ahmed. He is Parental Anxiety and Depression Coach. We're expecting to be joined by Funke-Treasure Anikeade, lecturer and also broadcaster. Of course, you know her here on News Central. But let's get started. Ladies first, they say. We're going to start with Elizabeth. Elizabeth, good morning. Now, I would like to know, from the data that you have seen, what is the scale of paternity fraud in Nigeria today?
Okay, thank you for the question. While we would not be able to put a number on the scale of paternity fraud in Nigeria, and this is because we did not test the whole population in the country. So our data can only tell for the number of tests that we conducted. That's for individuals that already have suspicion, they have doubt, and then they conducted the test with Smart DNA. So I would not be able to speak for the entire population in the country, but our data is showing that 1 in 4 tests that we've conducted comes out negative. So I can't put a number on the scale for Nigeria, but I can definitely say something about our data.
Okay. All right, so I'm going to come in the studio here and ask Faruq. Faruq, now you are a legal expert, and I'm wondering whether you have data regarding the number of people who actually come to, well, check for authenticity of their kids. How much do you see, and what's the scale tilting toward?
Okay, well, in terms of numbers, I don't have specific.
Once again.
Yes, I don't have specific numbers, but I know that it's a common issue. Because I do, apart from other areas of law that I specialize on, I also do a lot of family law. And I see that it tends to arise in some cases for good reasons, in some cases for maybe bad reasons or emotional reasons. Of course, when marriages are splitting, you hear all sorts of allegations and all that. So we see cases where it was genuinely raised, issue of paternity was genuinely raised. And when we went ahead with the test, it turned out that it was uncalled for. Although there were reasons to doubt, there were suspicious, maybe there was infidelity and all that. But when tests were eventually done, we see that it went out very well. And we've also seen cases where you can tell that it's from a place of malice. You are requesting for a paternity test based on malice, maybe just to embarrass the lady or just to insult the woman and all that. So in those sort of cases too, in some cases we can talk to them and say, from what we've seen so far, we don't think there's any basis for you requesting, because for the past 10 years of your marriage or 15 years of your marriage, you never raised this issue. So why is it that now that your wife has decided to leave you or you're having issues, you now want to raise it? And at the same time, you are the one complaining and you don't have access to your children, you don't see your children. And on the other hand, you are asking for DNA. So which one do you want? Before you complain that you don't spend time with your children, you must be sure they are your children. So in some cases, when you talk to them, you discover that perhaps some of them need to see a therapist or a psychiatrist or a psychologist to just talk to them, allay their affairs, and calm them down. But when you see, also in cases, we've seen genuine cases where you need to check because of the peculiar facts of the case. For example, now you have a spouse or you have a spouse who is always telling lies about their location, and you've gotten multiple evidence that they're always with somebody else. In that sort of case, if you are not sure, then you check. Or you have someone who just came out from a relationship.
So are you seeing an increase in that kind of case?
Oh, yes, yes, significant.
And what's the root cause, do you think? Because, I mean, at this point, I guess we can call it infidelity. So what's the root cause of infidelity currently leading to paternity fraud?
What's the root cause?
Yes.
Okay, so when it happens, do you mean what's the, like, what solution, what's the root cause?
What I'm asking is what's causing this increase in the numbers we're seeing?
What's causing the increase in the numbers? So there are multiple factors. Number one is lifestyle issues. You know, lifestyle issues causing it because, you know, there's a lot of moral decadence in the society. People go to nightclub, what they watch on social media, people are not well dressed, people keep bad company. You know, if you go and anywhere you go to, there's like things are jumping at you. So there's that. There's number two, there is lack of family values. You see now some people say their wives are living in Canada or London. They travel 4 times in a month. They say they will go once in a year or twice in a year. Or the husband is living in Abuja, the wife is living in a place. You don't go regularly. There's a dislocation of the family, and there's also lack of morals. There's no moral yardstick. Like some people might have had multiple partners before they came into the relationship, so they are coming with certain kind of baggages, and you didn't assess, you didn't do your due diligence very well or your findings very well, and you jumped into it. And there's also office not having boundaries, not setting boundaries. People at work don't have boundaries. You see some people, they call themselves office husband, office wife, you know. And when there's no boundaries, infidelity doesn't just start at once. It starts from chatting, it starts from admiring, it starts from spending time together. I'm dropping you at the office, I'm doing this, I'm chatting with you. So it's lack of family values and lack of enlightenment.
So it's not like as if things are changing. Maybe I should ask Mohammed here. Mohammed, if you were listening to Faruq's submission there, and I'm wondering, these things have always been there. We've always had these issues. We've always, our fathers went to the clubs. Our fathers had a mixture of friends. Our fathers worked in offices. So did our mothers as well. But what's happening now? Is it any different? What's causing the increasing rate of infidelity, Mohammed?
On points, I'll still have to just weigh in on the submission. So if we look back at history, if you look at the African culture, it's been more of a polygamous system, you know, and the ties of the lineage of a child, you know, is strongly associated with inheritance and, you know, those are very strong cultural ties. So with the rise of, would I say, individualistic cultures, where we do not have that African-centric kind of setting where we sit and, you know, there are controls, you know, and so with that has led to the proliferation of the family structure. A lot of people are shying away from the issue of monogamy, polygamy. Okay, but I'm going to say this because imagine a man who has a low sperm count, okay, and who probably with his wife have been managing this for years, but the wife is probably not ready to say it out for some stigma or shame, and she seeks an alternative because he himself is not able to help himself. He's not ready to seek for help. You know, we have several cases too. Also, from the relationship viewpoint, we have taken religiosity into the space of sexual satisfaction. A lot of people who are religious leaders, or even ordinary corporate elements, individuals who are probably busy with work and home, have neglected their rights towards their wives. And then even some wives even want to even, you know, show their talents or probably demonstrate their sexual energy, but then the shame of don't see me as Olosho or something. So we need to break those. We need to have more sexual expressions in our marriages, you know, beyond the dislocation of families, you know.
So Mohammed,
we need to have more sexual expression. Yes,
Mohammed, I hear you there when you talk about sexual expression and the fact that in our African culture, that part of our expressions are stifled, that we see it as, it's not something to be, you know, don't be heard talking about, you know, sex or what you like when it comes to sex or how you like this or that, what your preferences are. But Elizabeth, I'm still coming back to you for more details, but I wanted to introduce Funke-Treasure Anikeade. She joins us now. You know her here on News Central, lecturer and broadcaster. Funke, you're welcome. Thank you very much for joining us, Funke. I'm going to start by putting you straight on the spot because, Funke, you were quoted as saying men are getting what they deserve. If you would please explain what you meant by that, Funke, if you don't mind.
Yeah, that's fine. Good morning, everyone. Good morning, everyone. Yes, indeed. I say that because, I mean, a woman would not get into paternity fraud on her own. It takes two to tango, first of all. Secondly, when in a marriage relationship, you have a man who will not be available for testing, like you're going for an IVF, and your man is saying there's nothing wrong with him. There is nothing wrong with him. You are the problem. Society has socialized all of us into the belief that if there is any problem about infertility in a marriage, it has to be the woman. You're the one who has the problem. And so if the woman discovers that she doesn't have a problem and the man is not agreeing to go through the process with her, she will try outside. And if she tries and she gets pregnant, first child, guy doesn't know what has happened. Woman has the child. Nobody's vilifying or victimizing her anymore. She'll try a second time and then a third time. And that's where you will find that they say, all three children are not his. Have we tried that guy? Have we tested that guy if he's fertile? That's number one. Number two, the man outside who tangles with a married woman, you know what you're doing. You know the implications, all right? But then you go ahead and then we end up with paternity fraud. Some time ago I said to myself, men are so blessed. A woman can show up one day and say, oh, you remember the other day? This is the child. Nobody does that for a woman. There is no surprise for a woman. If you're not carrying that baby, sorry, you don't have a baby anywhere. You don't have a child anywhere. It's only men that can, wake up one day and suddenly have a child. So if our men will be responsible and not dallying with married women, if our men will be man enough to say, okay, we do not have children, let us go the whole process together, then we'll have less paternity fraud. You cannot keep a woman in your house and refuse to support her in getting, treatment for fertility, and then turn around and say, oh, this child is not mine. No, you have to, and I say that because I know for sure that these situations are happening all over the place. In addition to maybe, what's it called, infidelity. Mm-hmm. Yes, there are cases of infidelity, but who impregnates the woman? It's a man. So you men will have a better world. You have less paternity fraud when you start being more responsible. That's what I feel.
That's a very interesting way to put it, especially when you make it about men. But what responsibility for the women, even if they're going through all of these things that you've just noted? I'm going to come back to you on that one, Funke. Yes. But Elizabeth, in the course of the past year or two, have you seen an increase in people coming in to test for paternity tests?
We've seen an increase in people coming to tests for the tests, and not just paternity tests now. I think majority of Nigerians just think that when you say DNA testing, it's just a paternity test. We also have women request a maternity test just for a different purpose now. People traveling for immigration, they would need a DNA test if the embassy is requested for it. People also, for women that are also pregnant as well, they also would like to find out if the child has a genetic disorder, which you can do with a DNA test. But yes, we've also seen an increase in men wanting to now check the children that they have, just to be sure. People are now seeking clarity over doubts and suspicion.
And of course, once again, from these tests that you have seen an increased number of children not belonging to the individuals who are coming for these tests, yes?
I wouldn't say an increase because our data is showing that for last year, we actually have a slight improvement as opposed to 27% of negative results that we got last year. This year was seeing 25%.
Well, that's a small margin. Elizabeth, Funke, Faruq and Mohammed, we're going to go on a very short break. The conversation is not over. Let's do a break and we'll be back to continue. Welcome back. And from earlier, we have been discussing the case of rising paternity fraud in Nigeria. We have with us here in the studio Mr. Faruq Abbas. He's the managing partner, Abdul Salam Abbas & Co., giving us a little legal angle to the matter. And Elizabeth Digia, operations manager, Smart DNA, for the stats. Funke-Treasure joins us, as well as Mohammed Ahmed, perinatal anxiety depression coach. But Funke, let me come to you. Let's talk about the role of culture. In our culture, we find that, well, we have a very patriarchal kind of culture. We also have a culture where, in cases where men choose to be philanderers or where men choose to have more than one partner, it's kind of like, you know, it's something that is not absolutely frowned upon, but it is absolutely frowned upon when women become so. So are women becoming more open to having multiple partners now? Is that what the case is, Funke?
There is, we have the cultural considerations in this matter. But you see, times are changing. People are looking for ways to have joy and peace. So they're finding a way to still do what they have to do, despite the culture. There is a culture that if there is no child in a marriage, in a childless marriage, the woman bears the brunt of it. Women are saying no to that. So that's changing. You see that in cases of separations and marriages now, women are leaving their children behind for the men. They're saying, no, I'm not going to be the single woman who's going to, you know, take care of these children. You take care of them. I will take a walk as well. So women are swimming against the tide, as it were. The same thing with you know, fruit of the womb, as we call it in Nigeria. If you do not have a child, a woman, women are no longer living the responsibilities, I'll put that in quote, to men. They're saying, look, I'm going to take care of myself. If I find out that I'm not the problem, since people want us to stay married, because there is this what do I call it now? There is this perception. Yes, there's this perception of a woman who is separated or divorced. Many women don't want to have to bear that burden. So they will remain in a loveless marriage. They will remain in an abusive marriage. They will remain in that marriage and do what they have to do to, you know, get on with it.
But now,
we tell
Funke,
women in abusive marriages, hold on, we tell women in abusive marriages to leave. But then we're the first to say, oh, but she's not married, she's a single mother, she's this, she's that. So women don't want that. Do you understand? And
absolutely
so that's why
understand that. No, I absolutely understand that. But we're in a case where it is not about children or a lack of children, where it's a case where it's not about stigma. Is there an argument to be made for the fact that women are becoming more socially aware with the advent of social media and everything that they're exposed to, and just simply want to explore their sexualities even more now?
Yes, indeed. Yes, indeed. Women are they're bolder, they're more daring nowadays. I don't know whether it's the water, the air, or that, you know, social media has just made people, women, to just come to a sense of awareness, consciousness, you know. But things have changed. The dynamics have changed tremendously. Many women are no longer passive. They're active in how their lives turn out.
Okay,
you know.
okay. This next question is for you and Mohammed. Is it okay that women are beginning to explore more of their sexuality?
For me, it's okay, but then I don't think whatever it is that you do, ensure that you're not hurting the other person.
Okay.
If you have to be in a relationship, in a marriage relationship, it's serious matter. And you have the trust, the commitment of another person who is your partner. I don't think you should take that loosely and make life miserable for the other person. If you know that you want to explore within a marriage, just get out. Get out of that marriage. Don't make somebody else miserable. Don't allow somebody else to find out that he's not the father of 3 children, 4 children, 5 children. I mean, take a walk, be courageous enough to leave.
Okay, then.
But then the society would have to make it easy for women to leave.
All right.
Because they vilify these women.
Now, Mohammed, is it okay that women are beginning to explore more of their sexuality? What would you say?
Question. Self-discovery or self-rediscovery should not be assumed for the woke culture, because the woke culture is more about sensation seeking, and it's actually a risky behavioral pattern. Okay, so most of these women are constantly on social media. You know, they get the attention and validation from that social media, and it allows them not maintain the boundaries as expected, as shared by the barrister in the house, the legal practitioner in the house. So you see, and then on social media today, we see infidelity stories are normalized. So it becomes more like a copycat behavior, because women do not see the need for them to, you know, to maintain their dignity. You know, it gives them the slippery slope to say, yes, I can try this out. So, and then some of them also, you know, are following celebrities that are probably even promoting single motherhood. It's not, if you look at the current, would I say, generation, the millennials and probably a little before them, they are actually advocating for single parenthood, you know, and this is because of the proliferation of Western cultures, Westernized cultures too. So I'm saying that this we need to revisit what the family dynamics are, because these issues are leading to intergenerational trauma and probably associated identity crisis for children, you know. So a woman who is not satisfied in a marriage should be expressive enough to tell her husband what she desires or what she wants, and probably escalate if it's not working out. And as Mrs. The speaker for me rightly said, work out of the marriage, you know, as against just trying to, you know, create problems that would affect every party in the long run.
Okay. Now let's look at the legal angle once again. Now, Faruq, what happens when a man discovers that his kids are no longer his kids? What obligations does he still have for those children whom he perhaps had brought up since up until 10 years old and maybe even more? What does he do? What is owed to him at this point?
Okay, thank you. That's not a good position to be at.
No.
But you know, when you get to that position, number one, you need to realize that paternity fraud is not a crime in Nigeria.
It is not.
It's not a crime in Nigeria.
No,
yes,
you're joking.
It's not a crime in Nigeria. And since it's not a crime in Nigeria, what that means is that you can only have recourse to the civil aspect of it. And what do I mean by having recourse to the civil aspect of it? Of course, you'll be traumatized, you'll be emotionally damaged, you'll be embarrassed, you will have suffered a lot of inconveniences and loss. So you can go to courts for breach of trust, for thought of deceit, you know, and of course you would have your evidence, because for you to have been able to establish that the children are not yours, it means that you have a DNA result. And that can also be a ground for divorce, you know, if you want to attack it frontally, because the truth, and what no one has mentioned, is that there are cases where parties find out that one of the children don't belong to the father, and the father decides to forgive and move on, and they just keep quiet about it. So it doesn't mean that if there's an issue of paternity fraud, that must be the end of the marriage. Some parties overlook it. We've had cases where maybe a party eventually opened up to the husband, and because the husband didn't find out on his own, and based on that openness, they decided and said, you know what, okay, let's try and see therapists, let's not bring the marriage to an end. But if you don't have the emotional stamina to contain it, because of course, once it arises, you must see therapists, of course, because it's emotionally draining. And in terms of legal standing, if there are children, what the law says is that, because there are cases on that it's in the best interest of the children to know their real father. So if you find out that they are children and you are not their real father, you have a duty to make them know their real father. Of course, if you now weigh the case and see that it won't be in their best interest, because whatever the court decides in family matters is usually based on the best interest of the child. And those cases are different. The circumstance in case A will be different from circumstance in case B. If you feel that in case A now, letting the child know who their real father is at this moment will do more damage than good to the child, perhaps you can manage it in a more strategic way. but you have a duty to allow the child to know who their parents, their real parents are. So you can go to court on it. And most people don't pursue the aspect of going to court for the civil responsibility, for the civil breach to get damages. And that's what I believe is still making it prevalent. Because if maybe somebody experienced it and you took your wife to court and you get an order for damages against her and a pronouncement that she's liable for breach of trust and deceit, that becomes a public document. When she leaves the marriage and she wants to marry somebody else, if they ask and say, why did you leave your previous marriage? You won't be able to tell any lie and say the man was impotent or the man was this. There's already a fact. So that would be like a form of deterrence, and nobody will do it anymore. But if it happens and you just keep quiet about it, or you just tweet about it and move on, you are still promoting it indirectly.
So are you suggesting to fathers that they must take legal action?
Yes. What I'm suggesting is that if you cannot be reconciled, and I don't advocate, even though I do a lot of family law, I don't always advocate for dislocation of families and all that. So I always preach for mediation, for resolving disputes amicably. If it cannot be resolved amicably and with the help of therapists, I suggest very strongly that legal action should be taken. And unfortunately, we don't have a legal framework on this, because some other advanced clients, they have laws governing this issue of paternity, steps to take, how to go about it, and all that. I think the time is now ripe that we shouldn't just make it a talk show. Whenever this thing happens, you talk about it. Let's take actions. Let the courts make one or two pronouncements. And if they are children, they have a duty. You have a duty to let them know their father. Of course, if it's an adult, there's a court of appeal decision where an elderly person, somebody said that he was the father of an elderly man, and the court said no, we can't compel an adult to undergo DNA test. So if it's an adult, yeah, you can forget about that. But for children, they have a right to know who their father is, and you have to save them from the emotional trauma and burden of thinking somebody is their sibling or somebody is their father and the person is their father. Because under the Child Rights Act and Child Rights Law of Lagos State, children also have rights to dignity. They have rights that must be respected. And one of their rights is that they must know their parents. Okay. So I believe that that's what should be done. But of course, it's not a crime. But you can use it as a ground for divorce. You can resolve amicably, or you can go against the other party. If she's a very wealthy person or she has income that she can pay, then you can take her to court and let the court tell her to give you damages. And of course, if you even know the other party, because another part we're not talking about is the issue of technology in paternity fraud. It might not be infidelity. It might be that where she went to do IVF, she did IVF without telling her husband. It might be that they said they were using the husband's sperm and they used the third-party sperm. Because if you do the DNA there, it won't show that that's the person. So if you know that it was infidelity and you have proof that this is the person responsible, aside from suing your wife, you can also join the other party, the other person who is the father, as a party to the case and claim damages against them. So when you do that and it becomes open in the public and there's a judgment, that will serve as a form of deterrence, like Madam the lecturer said there. Maybe some men will see that and say, you know what, I don't want to be exposed in this sort of way that my judgments will be outside, that this is what I did, you know. But if you don't take action, then we will continue to promote it indirectly.
Very interesting, well articulated. Elizabeth, for dramatic effect, we'd like to know what's the worst case you have ever recorded? Because we hear of cases where all 3 children, all 4 children, 3 out of 5 kids. Now, specifically, what's the worst case you've ever experienced?
So while I would not be able to disclose that, because for our clients we have the confidentiality part of our tests that we do, but say on an average, probably like 3-4 children not being the biological children to the man. Oh, wow.
That is a serious case indeed. Well, I'm hoping that we've covered all the bases here today. I want to say thank you very much, Elizabeth Digia. Thank you very much, Faruq Abbas, and also Funke-Treasure. Thank you very much. It was also very good having you here for that element that you added in. And of course, Mohammed Ahmed, parental anxiety and depression coach. Thank you to the entire panel here today. We'll continue to follow these cases. Maybe a year from now, we'll come back and have this conversation. Elizabeth will tell us if it's better or worse, but we'll find out.